Hello, everyone, and welcome to another show with me, Rosie, the Realtor. And today I have a very special guest speaker. We have Rennee Dehesa from the law offices of Jones, Lester, Schmuck, and Becker and Dehesa LLP. Hey, Rennee.
Hi.
Sorry, that was a mouthful there.
It's a mouthful. I know. We don't make it easier on people.
Right?
Yeah, I know. It's hard.
No worries.
We just answer the phone law office and hopefully that avoids confusion.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, if I heard that, it would make sense if I'm calling a law office. So wonderful. So Rennee, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I am an estate planning attorney. My office is in Santa Paula. We have an additional office in Camarillo. We have 4 partner attorneys and 2 associate attorneys. We also have staff that works at each office, comprised of paralegals and legal assistants. So we are focused on providing legal representation for people who want to create trusts. Maybe they have someone who's passed away and they don't know what the next step is in terms of helping administer their house or their bank accounts. We also help individuals who maybe need to take care of a loved one, whether it's a minor child or an adult who isn't able to care for their own finances and their own medical needs. And we help them through all of those different legal procedures.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. I'm sure you stay really busy with all of that.
Yes, the baby boomer population is coming of age in the needs for having personal care and obviously passing away and transferring wealth to the next generation. So it's it does keep us on our toes. And we just really enjoy working with families and helping people through kind of difficult and challenging times.
Absolutely. And I know that, like assisted living or in-home care can be very, very, very costly, especially since you don't know how long once somebody's at a point where they can't, care for themselves, how long they're going to need that. Awesome. So Rennee, tell me, I know that, we've worked together in the past more on the probate side. So tell me a little bit about probate.
So probate is the process by which someone who's passed away, their assets get administered and distributed to their beneficiaries if they left a will, and named people to receive their assets, or their heirs. If they didn't have a will, the court will determine who the people are that are legally entitled to inherit. And it's a process that has to be done through the court. It's a process that comes into effect if the person does not have a trust, or there's assets that are outside of a trust, or if the person only has a will, or if they don't have anything at all. And it's really a mandatory process for being able to legally receive the assets of someone who's passed away, like a house, like title to a house, or being able to sell the house. As a realtor, you know that if someone is selling a house, they need to have the legal authority to sell it. So that means that they need to be on title. Usually they need to be a co-owner, and all the owners need to be in agreement to sell it, or they need to have some type of legal authority, whether it's a power of attorney or a probate situation where they've been given the power to administer an estate or be a trustee in a trust and all of that. So the probate process is also an opportunity for creditors of the person that passed away to come forward and make any claims that they may have against the person who passed, maybe some debts that they owed, maybe the decedent had some property in his or her name that actually belonged to someone else. So it's also the opportunity for them to kind of be able to get their claims heard. So anyone can open up a probate. It could be a creditor, it could be a neighbor, it could be anybody. There are certain priorities given to certain people who open probates. Usually the people that were closest to the person that passed, like a spouse or a child or someone. And then if none of those people want it, then pretty much anyone can open up a probate to administer the assets of a loved one.
Very good, very good. Yeah, and one of the things we see sometimes is, as I know you do trust, and people will get a trust to put the house in the trust, and either years pass, they buy another home, or they refinance. They don't realize how often someone will refinance, and the house doesn't get put back in the trust, and so obviously it's a little easier case for you. Hey, here's a trust, judge, this is what should happen. But nevertheless, if it's not in the in the trust, it's bound to go through probate. So awesome. Awesome. Well, we certainly appreciate all the information. And I think on average, a person will deal with probate maybe once or twice in their life. So it could be very overwhelming when somebody has to deal with it because.
Yeah. And a lot of people think that, I've had some situations, I have a couple of probates going on right now where we have people that have passed away like in the 70s, and no one's done anything with the house. And then, now they decide that they need to sell it, or there's an issue with the house that they have to address, but they can't because they're not on title. And so, a lot of people think that by not doing anything, it's going to kind of go away, and it doesn't go away. It just becomes worse because now you have to go through potentially a lot of people in order to probate an asset, and you may have to open up additional probates to deal with people who were maybe heirs and then they died after the person died. So it could be pretty complicated, and at the end of the day, it's really costing money to the people who end up potentially getting this asset, because they could very quickly burn through the equity or burn through the value of that asset in attorney's fees and costs. So it's not something that we recommend to clients, which is why we like to do a lot of estate planning education, and we prefer to have our clients do estate plans, obviously, because probates is not generally a good way to plan for the transfer of your estate.
Right.
As you have participated in a few, so you know just how challenging they can be when you already are dealing with an asset that maybe needs to have some help and some rehab, like a house, and there's no money to pay for that, and no one wants to pay for it because no one's really getting anything yet until the end. And so it can be really long and complicated, and especially now with what we've learned from COVID, our courts were closed for over 2 months, which we couldn't file anything. We couldn't get anything started unless it was an emergency. And so the time frames for having assets transferred through probate for this year have like more than doubled, only because everything's kind of stalled or everything's much slower. And it makes it more frustrating for people because there's only so much we can do, and because it's a court proceeding, we have to work with the court's timeframes.
Yeah, absolutely. We're at their mercy, and you're right. Basically, the whole world shut down for that month, 2 months. Yeah. Awesome. Well, and I would say, even if like you own a house and somebody passes, but their spouse is still alive, I mean, really, and you can say a different timeline, but I'd say within the first year you should be updating the title of a home if your spouse passed, or taking care of that, because I can only imagine how more harder it gets and not so cost effective. Well,
definitely. I mean, it's something that just doesn't resolve of its own. I mean, that's all I can say. Ignoring it does not make it go away. And sometimes it's also difficult because probates force people to have to do some things that maybe they don't want to do, or they thought maybe their loved one didn't want to do, like either sell a house or keep a house or do something that that they maybe did not foresee happening. So for example, if someone inherits a house and they know that their parent wanted them to get that house to live in it, and they have to go through a probate now, where are the probate fees and costs going to come from if that house isn't sold? And so
Right.
sometimes the house needs to be sold in order for them to get the asset through probate, which then, is really impactful on people because they live there, they rely on that asset. Whereas creating a trust might have helped provide a solution where someone could live in a house but still have a trust asset administered in the trust, or there's just a lot more creative opportunities for people to divvy up assets within a trust than a probate. A
Absolutely.
probate is very limited in generally what can be done, especially because most probates involve people who have pretty simple wills. They might just say, all of my stuff to my 2 kids. And a lot of them, probably most probates, don't involve any document. So the court is having
Mm,
to figure out where stuff goes. And the court is also very limited in what the court can do. A judge has the obligation to transfer the assets out of the probate. It can't just hold assets there because someone is living in the house and
right.
needs to live there,
Right.
So, that can create a lot of familial stress and pressure on people as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially in special cases where maybe they wanted to go to grandkids. Well, now that's not going to happen. So they absolutely should be, taking care of
Yeah.
things sooner than later.
Yeah,
So,
or charities. That's another example. People want their stuff to go to a charity
yeah,
instead of their kids, or instead of, someone that might, and that's not going to happen unless you have a clear document that says that that's where it should go.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, Rennee, if somebody wanted to contact you direct for either to write a trust or they're dealing with a probate, how could they do that?
So they can definitely call me, and I think you're sharing the screen with my phone number, but my phone number is 805-525-7104. Or they can email me, and I think my email's on there. It's a little long, but it's basically my first name, Rennee, at venturaastatelegal.com. And then when they call or they email, we'll get them set up for either a phone call or a
Perfect.
Zoom meeting or an in-person meeting. We're trying to limit our in-person meetings as much as we can. Obviously,
Yeah.
given the COVID situation, we are trying to really limit our foot traffic in our office to only the essential business related to um, the legal issues in creating a trust and signing it. But if someone's older or they're just not that comfortable with technology, it might make more sense to have them come in. And we do take all the precautions necessary in order to be able to provide for their safety while they're here. We only have one client at a time. We ask that they come without any guests, to limit the amount of people that are in the office. We sanitized everything, and we're really only by appointment, so we don't have anyone coming in and just kind of walking around that we are not anticipating. So we're kind of pretty open right now to be able to do that. We do offer a free half-hour consultation. So if you just kind of want some information about the difference between a will or a trust, or whether you should have a trust, or how to process something, then we will do, usually in the first 30 minutes, we'll be able to figure out a game plan for what you have. So that's available for any new client.
Perfect. Absolutely. Yeah. Let you decide where your assets go instead of the state. Well, perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Rennee, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and I know no escrow is going to close unless everybody signs or I have a legal
Yeah.
document for that person. So
Yes. It's my job to help get all the signatures.
I love it because we only get paid when it closes.
Yeah.
All right, all of us. Well, thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Of course. And we forgot to say too that you speak Spanish, which is awesome.
I do. I'm fluent in Spanish. A lot of my clients are Spanish speaking. There are probably only a handful of Spanish speaking attorneys in the county that are practicing in this area. And so for someone who may feel more comfortable speaking directly with an attorney in Spanish instead of going through a translator or having to rely on family or someone else, I have that service available.
Absolutely, which is a great service to have, especially in this area. So,
Yeah,
well,
thank
wonderful.
you.
Well, hopefully, if you need some her services, please reach out to her. And thank you for tuning in.